Is the role of an athletic director sometimes a relic idea of what we consider to run athletics? I mean, you have somebody that has to do fundraising. They have to do internal staff. They also have to make sure that they hire, coaches and doing everything in that kind of realm. But then they also have to worry about people's academics. And now they also have to worry about, the student athletes actually not only graduating on time, not becoming menaces to society going out there. I mean, it seems like 4 or 5 different roles that did not exist when Woody Hayes or whoever was in charge of a department.
I think it's 14 or 15 different roles. I really believe that the job of an athletic director is near impossible. And that's why the person who you ultimately report to, who leads your institution, is really the key. It's for a head coach, the athletic director. Is he or she strong enough to help you through the dark periods, through the tough times when the bullets are flying? I always said this, you don't need a president to stand next to you when you're hanging championship banners and handing out championship rings. You need them when the bullets are flying, and that determines great leadership, right? So the role of the athletic director is impossible. And that's why you see, when you look, you see many athletic directors being fired, many great people being fired, great family members being fired, because maybe their basketball program or their football program hasn't had success, or their fundraising is not up to snuff, or the realistic expectations of their fan base are not being, the unrealistic expectations of fan bases are not being met. So presidents ultimately cover themselves and say, you know what, let's buy out this athletic director and I'll show the fan base that I care, even though that athletic director may be doing, she or he may be doing a phenomenal job. The reality is that if you stayed in an institution too long, it's time to go. That's really the case with, and all of my friends, and I'm telling you, I consult regularly, they will tell you that they always have one eye on another job after about 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 years, because you make, Troy, in college athletics, every decision's 50-50, okay? So I'm going to make a decision today you're going to be happy about. But John across the hall or the donor is not happy about that. And over time, you upset everybody because you make so many 50-50 decisions that you go into your pocket and all the coins you had in your pocket, you've now spent. So you've lost your political capital. The agenda that you had set out now slows down. You get new leadership at the highest level. That person starts hearing from maybe a donor or a coach, a successful coach, who may say, Jim is X, Y, or Z. So it's I would say this, 3 V's, highly visible. College athletics is highly visible. It's highly vulnerable and highly volatile. Visible, vulnerable, volatile. Visible for the obvious reason. Social media is out of control. In my own experience with it, people will put something out and check facts months later, and by that time it's too late, right? There's been an explosion of online branding companies throughout the country. If you turn on Shark Tank, every other episode there's an online branding company that's on there looking for funding for Mark Cuban. Because people throughout our society are getting hammered and are being accused of being victimized by people in the media or just people in general saying, you go on Yelp and say, oh, that restaurant was terrible last night, the service was terrible. Well, that could be the person across the street who's trying to compete with you, under an anonymous name. So the role of the athletic director, you have to have a tight inner circle. You have to have faith in yourself, faith in your boss, and a real tight-knit inner circle within your staff, but also within the upper echelon of the university. So to answer your question, the role of the athletic director is your compliance. You're a human resources director. You're a facility manager. You have to raise money. You have to carry the flag throughout campus. You have to be all things to all people. You have to hit home runs, and every coaching hire you make and high profile level has to be a home run. And then you only get to give them 2 or 3 years, and then you have to buy them out. And then so you have to go back to the same donors and ask them for more money to buy out the coach that you've already asked them for and sold them on to go get the next guy. And then the last piece is those outside influences, Troy, have way too much involvement. The donor, presidents who don't have any real strength, haven't been taught in leadership. They've come from the academic side, many of which are coming into situations where this is the first time they've managed and led people in their lives, right? They're academicians, many of them. And so, you look around and you're seeing NCAAs being led by presidents that don't have experience in management, that don't really have a keen understanding of really the culture of higher education and college athletics and higher education. And then you have donors that are unrealistic and fan bases that are unrealistic yet want to have success immediately. And when they give their money, they want to be heard. And so if you hire a coach and you go against your largest donor and you hire a coach that donor is not advocating for, you run the risk of in 3 years or 2 years being out of a job. Because you get the I told you so that Johnny or Sally wasn't the answer to our problems, but you took a chance on them, and now you're not going to get my support. Either you go or I go. And presidents have to ultimately follow the money trail as well. So it's a really interesting time to be an athletic director, and I fly around the country as a consultant, and I talk to these guys and these women, and they are lonely, and they are under the gun 24/7.
Well, and, to kind of back up that point, I've always said that if you really wanted to control an athletic department as an outside entity, and just go to the bottom levels, go to the FCS, because for some reason, if you give $4,000 to $5,000 a year annually, you'll be treated like gold, whereas if you went to the Power Five, nobody would even think that was anything. It just depends on how much those dollars are worth.
Correct. And when I first got to Stony Brook, our largest gift was $100,000, and the athletic department lost that person's check, and that person, and then I ended up taking the job, and this was the largest gift given throughout the Stony Brook was $100,000. I ended up going back to that person. It took me almost 2 years to get that person re-engaged, and he ended up giving us a $500,000 lead gift to build an academic center, and then that led to another gift, to another gift, to another gift, and you try and sell these people on your vision and on your mission, but at the lowest levels, 10,000, 5,000, 20,000. That's big dollars for those middle of the pack FCS institutions that are struggling hand to mouth each day, that are dropping sports, that are asking their coaches to raise money just to have bagels and cream cheese on the road, as we like to say. So really, at the end of the day, you're selling a mission and a vision to people that you ask for help, and then they want access. So it's a fine balancing act. If somebody's giving you X amount of dollars, and that's a pretty good intake, donor intake for that year or for that institution, that person calls you up. They want access, and they don't get to make decisions. You're paid and hired to make hard, very difficult decisions in college athletics and higher education athletic directors. So I've always prided myself on separating the two, making it clear from the get-go the role that person would play, the role that where that donation would go, and then educating them on the return on their investment. The task ahead of you is never greater than the strength within you. I really believe that at the end of the day, what's ahead of you really pales in comparison to the strength that's within you. And as athletic directors, you have to have great strength within you. You have to make decisions. You have to tell presidents that you disagree. You have to tell coaches no, even though you love them and even though you think, this is what they feel they need. Sometimes you have to say no. And sometimes walking away has nothing to do with weakness and everything to do with strength. And so you have to walk away from very difficult conversations knowing that, you have the strength of your own faith and the strength of the faith of that you made the right decision.